Welcome to the Freight Project podcast, brought to you by Ceresys, a North American third-party logistics company providing shippers transportation management technology and solutions.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Freight Project podcast. On today's episode, we welcome Ceresys co-founder and Vice President of Business Development, Steve Narao. In this episode, Steve and I will talk about how he got involved in the logistics industry and why he, along with his two co-founders, started Ceresys more than 2 decades ago, what solution the company provided to the marketplace, and some interesting historical nuggets about the early days of the company. We'll also address Steve's role at Ceresys, where Steve is responsible for driving change and innovation at Ceresys by focusing on building partnerships between Ceresys and potential partners who can add capability to our core offerings and more value to our existing customer base and future customers. We'll also learn why collaboration between all entities in the shipping process is really the key to success in effective transportation management. Steve will also give his expert thoughts on what will be the greatest challenge for shippers to maintain efficiency and reduce costs. And finally, in this episode, you'll learn why effective transportation management can often boil down to how effectively executives and managers are managing the data coming out of their shipping processes to lead towards continuous improvement that begets cost savings and, of course, beating this current capacity crunch. We hope you enjoy this episode of the Freight Project podcast. And thanks for joining us today, Steve. Really appreciate you taking out time for our audience today here on the Freight Project podcast to get your unique insights into the freight industry, how things have been going in the past, and maybe how they look in the future. Now, as the co-founder of Ceresys and the current vice president of business development, you definitely have some unique insights to offer us. But we got to get to know who Steve Narao is first, right? So tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got started in this industry, and why the heck did you start Ceresys, a transportation management company?
All good questions, Adam.
Laid it on thick, everybody.
So it started years ago, back in early 80s. I went to work for a company called Pitney Bowes, primarily in their mailing division, but they had a division there that was for CMSs, carrier management group, things like that, that really interest me a lot. So instead of selling mailing equipment, mailing machines, it was more TMS systems, the very first foray of TMS systems. Throughout the years, did well with those. Then in the early 90s, Pitney bought a company called Vocam, which was kind of the leader in the TMS, PC-based TMS systems. So I went to work for Vocam and Transcape at the time. So that was really where I got started into the transportation side of the business. Did well with that, liked it, enjoyed it immensely. But it got to the point where it was really nice. TMS systems are all really good systems out there. But what was happening is we would sell them, put them in, and then companies couldn't really, didn't have the resources in place to manage them. So they became very obsolete very quickly.
That's because they were PC-based, right?
That's because they were PC-based. Okay. So what would happen is they were all great systems, but what would happen is they didn't have anybody internally to manage the data. They're all good systems, but if you don't manage the data inside of them, they really become obsolete systems and they give you bad information. So we started a company. We started Ceresys. It used to be called Logistics Management Services when we first started, primarily to help people manage the systems that we had sold. Okay.
Interesting.
So between Steve Levickson and myself, what we would do is we would keep their systems updated with proper rates, proper fuel tables, proper accessorial things, exclusions that carriers came out with, all the things that needed to be done in a TMS system. We quickly realized, though, that you can only do so many of those. They're PC based. You couldn't dial in. You had to be on site to change those. So we came up and decided to build our own system, more of a web-based system. At the time, there was nobody out there that did that. We found Robert Johnson. He was actually an integrator with one of our competitors. Found him, started talking to him about the concept, and that's what launched the first LTL Raider that we had. back in '97.
Scrappy internet startup in the .com days, and you're still around. So you got past the bubble bursting.
Yep.
And you're still here. And, I think one of the cool things I've always said is that you were a web-based system before even Google.com existed.
That's exactly right.
That's kind of fun. And you actually had a sales call at a Google office not too long ago.
That's exactly
right. So
right.
That's like full circle stuff right there.
It is.
That's a lot of fun.
It was kind of funny. Back when we first started building it, we were talking to UPS, FedEx, and some of the carriers, and they, even though we built it and it worked, they would not let us launch it into the marketplace because we were launching a web-based application before they had one.
Oh, they didn't like that.
They didn't like that.
Who's the Ceresys company?
Who's the Ceresys company? So that's when we decided to go to the LTL market. They weren't as strict with the guidelines, and that's when we started building more of an LTL Raider than a small package system.
That makes sense, And I think I found, I've always wondered that. That's a really good answer. That's a piece of history I didn't yet know.
Yeah.
So, LTL just has a lot of, moving parts. And I think was there something about that over parcel that just made more sense as well? Anything in addition to that?
Yeah.
Why did you focus really on LTL, and how has that really helped the company to have a focus on LTL?
Yeah. Well, like I said, when we first started, we were going after small package, and we realized it was in a lot better shape technology-wise than the LTL market. What we found is in the LTL arena, there was really no automation in the marketplace to speak of. There was no way to get rates into the system. It was all manual process. So the LTL market had a much bigger need than the small package market did.
Gotcha. So there's more opportunity there.
Way more opportunity.
But then you had a lot of work that you had to do, right? I mean,
Correct.
One of the first things that you did, and you still do to this day, and we'll talk about that in a second as far as partnerships are concerned. I remember you telling me stories. You're with your wife, Darlene, and you're writing down MC numbers of trucks.
We're going down the highway.
Yeah.
We're writing down names of trucking companies and MC numbers. In the day when we first started, no one really, and we go to market a couple different ways, but with national pricing and things like that. But carriers would come in when we first started. We had to get negotiated rates with carriers. They would come in to our office and we would not let them leave. I mean, we'd have 3-4 hour meetings. We would not let them leave until they promised to give us pricing. So it was when we first started, it was very tough because we were trying to ask for something that nobody in the marketplace really had done before, which was that blanket national pricing that you can go out to the market and sell. And so it was a kind of a different concept that they'd ever, everybody else previous to that, they did account specific pricing. They would go out and negotiate rates for customers. Well, we were trying to get into a market that didn't need that sophistication or that drill down in the pricing, but yet still needed help.
So that got you on the path of building out what really became one of our first employees, Amy Cook,
Yes.
As the carrier relations manager.
Yep.
Because we understood that having carrier relations was the next step, not just a good management of data and information, but you had to have the carrier relations aspect. And that's so important.
Correct.
And we view them as partners. And from day one, you've been looking to align with them. And I think, would you say to this day that that's still one of the backbones of our success, our ability to work with both the shippers, but also go to bat with them and have substantive, long-term, relationship-based conversations with carriers to navigate issues such as the capacity crunch on behalf of our shipper customers?
Yeah, I mean, our goal with the carriers, and you're right, there's a fine line between we have carriers as a customer, we have customers that are customers. We want to be an extension of what the carriers do. So they have a sales force out there. We just want to be an extension of their sales force, selling the same things that they are, doing the same things that they are, representing the carriers in the same manner that their own salespeople do.
Yeah, so it's a partnership.
It is.
And that's needed, especially in today's time. And speaking of partnerships, you kind of continue in your role as business development. It's not just sales. You're looking for solutions. Just like when you said, "Hey, I want to help the LTL world at managing data better with our web-based TMS." Okay, I also want to make sure that we develop good carrier relations because they're a big part of that.
Right.
Those are solutions to the market. One of our core values is continuous improvement of our people and processes. I would also include another P, our partnerships into that. And you've been kind of instrumental in looking out. And you have now, since you built the company and an infrastructure of sales, you've kind of got to focus on, okay, what are our customers in the marketplace missing? And how can I go out and find partners or solutions in order to give that? Because we're a solutions-based company.
Right.
So why is that collaboration or going out and seeking partnerships really a key to success in today's, somewhat global, interwoven, increasingly complex, multimodal shipping environment for shippers? Why is collaboration and partnership so important?
Well, first of all, distribution is becoming way more difficult than it was 20 years ago when we started the company. It used to be you could put it on LTL carrier and it was not complicated. It got picked up, it got delivered. Today, distribution has become a whole different animal. There's a lot of stuff going on, home deliveries, things like that. The visionary side of what I do is really looking at the marketplace, trying to figure out all the different aspects, helping people manage their distribution all the way from small package up through the truckload arena, and getting the freight from point A to point B at an economical, effective manner.
Yeah.
So we're constantly trying to update our service levels, not only for the small package, the LTL. We're now looking at going into the white glove arena with the Amazons of the world, the eBays of the world. Everybody's buying things online. We're looking at trying to solve that solution as well.
Now, if we could only clone truckers.
Exactly.
I think you've been looking at that partnership for a while.
Yeah, we would like to.
Because we have a big thing going on right now, and you and I actually had a longtime customer today email you, and you asked me, what's the outlook for freight costs, right? And I think any of us, the first thing we all say is, well, the capacity crunch is going to figure in this, and it's going to be tough.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that. You've been around the LTL carrier field for a long couple of decades now. This capacity crunch, why is it different? Why is it being covered by the likes of Wall Street Journal and Business Insider and Financial Times? I've not seen that in my previous capacity crunches.
We've never seen it. The industry's never seen it. It's unprecedented. You got a lack of drivers. You got an aging driver force. I believe the last thing I saw, your average truckload driver is 57 years old.
Wow.
They're having a tough time getting the younger generation into a cab. You got the different things, the ELD, electronic driver logs, the hours of capacity or the hours of service that they have out there. All regulations that are good, but have put a capacity crunch or a driver crunch into the market. And it's not going away. Until they can figure out how to get more drivers behind the wheel, they're always going to have this issue. This is going to be an ongoing issue for a while. And quite honestly, the markets, the economy's in good shape. So there's more freight into the bucket. And so the carriers are having a tough time getting it moved, tough time getting it picked up and through the distribution line hauls. They're buying as much line haul, and Amazon is sucking up a lot of line haul throughout the world right now.
Yeah.
So
I can't bank on it as much as you used to. It used to be a nice card in your deck. Now it's tough.
Exactly.
And when you take away cards and backup systems like that, it's a change.
Yeah,
it's an evolution.
So we're trying to develop. We're working with our customers, trying to figure out different ways to move the freight down the road economically, but on a timely manner. Instead of just trying to dump it all on the carriers, we're looking at trying to help them with line haul and doing different things like that.
So that's an interesting question. As an executive yourself, business owner, a lot of the people you interface with are the leaders and executives that are customers at that high level. I think executives, and especially our kind of customer makeup of more industrial manufacturers, wholesale distributors, that kind of thing, they, I think, have a pretty good insight into their shipping volume, an okay one. But do you see executives continuing to get more involved on the transportation budget as a way to increase their profitability? Are they freaking out? What are they saying?
Yeah, they are freaking out. Because here's the problem is for years when we were involved in this company, when we started this company, it was what we call the Black Bart. They had a traffic manager. He did everything. It wasn't a huge budget concern for them. Today, the cost of moving freight, moving product to the end user is a much greater cost than it used to be. It's really affecting people's freight to sales ratio or their profitability. So what's happening is it's gone upstream, and not so much that they want to know how things are done, but what can we do to position ourselves so that we can be more profitable down the road, that we can move our freight more effectively, things like that. It's a great thing that the CEO level, the C-suite level in general is getting involved with the transportation, simply because in the past they had no involvement in it whatsoever. And it's become a very vital part of their profitability.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that it's tough out there for shipper.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough out there for a carrier. You'd think it'd be a winner's problem to have so much more volume than you can deal with, but it brings a whole bunch of other problems. I think Amy brought a quote to us the other day. He's like, she said, one of our sales reps at a carrier said, I didn't think I'd say the day where I have too much freight.
Right.
I almost got too much freight. So it's a change, it's an evolution, and I think all of us are going through it together. So would you say that partnerships are and stepping back and thinking strategically is probably more important than ever for shippers today?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the piece that we try to bring to them. We try to, mitigate increases down the road. We try to mitigate issues that they're having with their transportation. But yeah, they have to be way more strategic than they were, like I said, even 5 years ago. And
does that play into that theme of shipper choice? Because we want to think that all freight's treated equal, right? But it's just not,
No.
And it's all about relationships in this business. It always has been. And technology is going to make relationships even more important because it takes out the weeds of process and the having to process a bill of lading. Our Raider, for example, helps make a bill of lading creation simple.
Right.
And so when you take away the basics and the things you have to do, and they are more efficient because of technology, relationships become ever more important. So how does a shipper do everything they have to do to answer to their boss about costs and get reporting and get information, meet the goal of reducing transportation costs where costs are rising, and actually get their freight picked up so they deliver to their customer on time? How does a shipper do this in-house without a partner?
It's very difficult. And I think that's why, 3PLs, and there's a study out there that 3PLs in general, outsourcing in general is becoming more popular, and it's going to increase over the next 10 years. The problem is they're not in the market. They're in the market to sell their product. That's what they do. So trying to be an expert in the transportation is very difficult. So they do need to partner with somebody. And it can be anywhere from packaging requirements, processing, putting your freight, packaging it properly so that the carriers like it. A lot of times, when you have a capacity crunch like this, everybody gets upset because prices rise and things like that. There's a lot of things that they can do to mitigate that. They can package their product better. They can ship it on certain days. They can ship it different modes, things like that. That's where they need the help from a 3PL.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And with that said, working in this industry forever, what is one tip that you give a shipper today, other than kind of some you've already talked about, or maybe just reinforcing what we've already talked about, that they could take away from Steve Norrell's brain on how to manage transportation more effectively?
There's nothing they can take from my brain.
He's got that unlock, everybody. That's going to cost you.
Technology. I mean, the thing is we still in this industry, there's a lot of people that have no technology in their transportation. They're still working off.
That scares the crap out of me.
It does.
Yeah.
It's insane. It'd be like billing your customers with ledger cards still.
Oh gosh.
I mean, they're still hitting websites for rates. They're doing routing guides. A TMS system, by far, whether you go to a 3PL, a managed TMS, a TMS that they want to buy as a software as a service, no matter what they do, that will help them have better distribution of their product at a lower cost.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. If you want to move your freight economically and effectively, look at technology. And then you can focus on partnerships and relationships. So
exactly.
Thanks for your insights today, Steve. Great to have you on. I'm sure our listeners will enjoy the episode. Can't wait to have you on again. We're going to make you, because I assume that this will probably be one of our most popular episodes.
Very good.
Thanks so much.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks for everybody for listening. We'll have you next week on the Freight Project Podcast. Take care.